You know, usually when you think about a suit of armor, you picture something heavy, like metallic and obvious.
Right, like a knight stepping onto a battlefield.
Yeah, exactly. You can see it, you can hear it clanking around, and everyone knows exactly what it's for. But then you look at how you actually operate in your modern daily life, and, well, it turns out you are walking around in a full suit of armor right now.
Yeah, it's just invisible.
Right. And instead of steel, it's forged out of your opinions. I mean, your critiques, your judgments.
And just like heavy armor, it completely exhausts you to carry it around all day. It restricts your movement, your psychological flexibility, and your growth.
Yeah, totally.
It keeps the world out, sure, but it also traps you inside.
Which is such a great way to put it. So today we are stripping that armor off. We are doing a deep dive into the core concepts of the Judgment Detox.
It's such a fascinating concept.
It really is. We're going to explore the hidden psychological roots of why you judge yourself and others so harshly. But we aren't just going to, admire the problem here.
No, we actually have solutions.
Exactly. We are going to map out concrete strategies like the emotional freedom technique, targeted somatic meditations, and some really profound worldview shifts to break that cycle and actually find genuine peace.
I love that because, well, most people view their own judgmental nature as just a permanent personality trait.
Right, like, oh, I'm just a critical person.
Exactly. Or they view gossiping as this harmless way to vent off steam. But the sources reveal that judgment is actually just a habit. And more importantly, it is a defensive shield.
A shield for what, exactly?
Well, it's a sophisticated psychological mechanism that you use to mask deep-seated childhood traumas and these really profound feelings of inadequacy.
Wow. Okay, so if it's a habit, that means it can be broken.
Absolutely.
But to truly detox from it, we have to look at the psychological roots before we can just, apply the cure. You can't just slap a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Right, you really can't.
And the core of this issue isn't about you gossiping at the water cooler. It starts internally. I mean, self-criticism is the engine driving the entire machine.
It really is a modern epidemic, and it's so heavily exacerbated by the environment you live in today.
Oh, social media, right.
Exactly. Think about your daily media consumption. You are constantly exposed to these influencers who are, often barely out of their teens, living these highly curated, luxurious lives.
Yeah, you see them traveling to exotic islands, making millions, and they just have this aura of effortless perfection.
Right. And the psychological result of that constant exposure is severe self-condemnation. You look at your own normal kind of messy life, and your brain immediately registers a deficit.
You suddenly feel frustrated and depressed and honestly just worthless because you aren't hitting these entirely fabricated standards.
Exactly. So you walk around feeling terrible about yourself, you feel insufficient.
And how do you cope with that agonizing internal pressure? You project it outward.
Yes. You judge other people. Criticizing others physically and emotionally stops you from condemning yourself in that specific moment.
It's this bizarre psychological trick your ego plays, right? Making someone else look bad, like judging a coworker for their perceived lower social status, or even something as simple as mocking a stranger's outfit.
It gives you a hit of dopamine.
Right. It makes you feel artificially safe and elevated.
It provides immediate relief. By lowering someone else's standing in your own mind, you artificially elevate your own hierarchy.
That makes total sense.
But you have to dig deeper into why you feel so fundamentally insufficient in the first place. And this usually traces back to early developmental trauma.
Like from childhood?
Yeah. When you are born, you inherently like yourself. You feel connected to your caregivers. You feel safe. But then an experience shatters that illusion. An experience forces you to feel unloved or unworthy or just fundamentally flawed.
And that trauma could really be anything, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It could be facing intense discrimination at school because of your background, or being mocked for your family's financial status, or even just having an emotionally unavailable parent.
Right. You learn very quickly that the world is not a safe place, and you internalize that hurt as a personal failing.
And then that internalized hurt morphs into a fear of vulnerability.
Precisely.
Yeah.
To prevent feeling that deep shame and pain again, your ego essentially pushes out its claws. You judge before you can be judged.
It becomes a preemptive strike.
Exactly. If you reject the world first, The world cannot reject you.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because the way I see it, judgment is basically like drinking salt water when you're stranded in a life raft.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, because it tastes sweet for a fraction of a second. It gives you that temporary high of feeling superior to the person with the loud voice or the messy life.
But it doesn't actually quench your thirst for self-worth.
Exactly. Over time, it just dehydrates you. It makes you bitter, and it completely deteriorates your spiritual growth.
What's fascinating here is how we reframe our relationship to this whole process. Carl Jung talked extensively about the shadow, the parts of our personality we reject or hide.
Right, the dark side.
Yeah. Duality is what makes human psychology function.
Yeah.
You cannot entirely eradicate your dark side or your tendency to be critical.
So we're kind of stuck with it.
Well, the key is to stop treating that judgmental part of your brain like a criminal that needs to be punished.
Oh, I see.
When you catch yourself being judgmental, the required shift is to acknowledge that impulse as an innocent, frightened child making a mistake.
Wow. So treating the judgmental part of your brain like a scared kid rather than a malicious villain, that completely neutralizes the shame.
Exactly. Because if you scold yourself for being judgmental, what are you actually doing?
You're just applying more judgment.
Right. You are judging yourself for judging, which spins you right back into the exact cycle you're trying to escape.
That is wild. Okay, so you have to realize the root cause is just your own fear of being insufficient.
Yeah. And to start catching this in real time, the Judgment Detox offers a very practical four-step framework.
Okay, lay it on me.
When you feel that flash of judgment, you need to pause your internal monologue and ask yourself 4 specific questions.
All right, what's the first one?
1. Who or what does this judgment refer to? 2. How does it physically make you feel?
Oh, so tapping into the body.
Right. 3. How do you justify this behavior to yourself? And 4. What specific trauma or past experience triggered this defense mechanism?
And the assignment is to actually write this down right. I read that the recommendation is to track at least 15 repeated judgments every single day to find your subconscious patterns.
Yes, 15.
At first glance, 15 sounds like a massive number. But, I mean, if you really pay attention to your internal monologue, you will hit 15 before your morning commute is over.
Oh, absolutely.
You judge the driver who cuts you off. You judge the barista for taking too long. You judge the radio host for breathing weirdly. It is constant.
It really is.
Yeah.
But that awareness is the critical first step. You pull the subconscious habit into the conscious light.
Right.
But here's the thing. Once you identify that your judgment is a physical and emotional reaction to past trauma, intellectual understanding simply isn't enough to fix it.
Yeah, because knowing logically why you are judging someone doesn't turn off the physical feeling of anxiety or anger flooding your chest.
Exactly. Your nervous system is still firing.
You have to physically move that trapped energy out of your body, which requires a somatic intervention. And this brings us to the emotional freedom technique, or EFT.
Yes, EFT is a fascinating intersection of ancient practice and modern neurology. It's based on Chinese discoveries of energy circuits in the body called meridians.
Which is the foundation of acupressure, right?
Right, exactly. But neurologically speaking, it acts as a somatic grounding technique.
Yeah.
The theory is that trauma and painful experiences shatter your body's energy balance and keep your amygdala, your brain's threat detector, stuck in the on position.
Oh, wow. So you're just constantly in fight or flight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And EFT is designed to disrupt that fight or flight response through rhythmic tapping.
Okay, let's walk through how this actually functions. First, you choose an MPI, a most pressing issue.
Right.
So let's say your issue is a deep-seated judgment and anger toward your parents for a chaotic divorce that ruined your childhood. You take that specific issue and you rate your physiological distress on a scale from 0 to 10.
Setting that baseline is so important because you need an empirical measurement of your nervous system's reactivity.
Okay, makes sense.
Once you have your issue and your number, you begin tapping rhythmically with your fingertips on specific meridian zones on your face and body.
Like the inner eyebrow, the side of the eye.
Under the eye, under the nose, the chin, the collarbone, under the arm, and the top of the head.
But the somatic tapping is only half the equation, right? You aren't just doing this in silence.
No, definitely not. Phase 1 is the negative phase.
Okay, wait. Here's where it gets really interesting, but also maybe a little wild.
How so?
Well, while you are tapping those pressure points, you are instructed to say your darkest, most destructive beliefs out loud.
Right.
You are supposed to honor the trauma, by actually voicing the negativity. You tap your collarbone and say things like, they ruined my life, they deserve my judgment, I blame them.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I have to stop here and push back on this a little bit because it sounds completely counterintuitive.
It does to a lot of people.
If we are trying to do a detox, shouldn't we be focusing on positive vibes immediately? Why would you start a healing process by shouting your most toxic thoughts?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Ugh.
It's the exact point where most people get tripped up, but the psychology behind it is bulletproof.
Okay, explain it to me.
You have to surrender to the emotions you fear before you can release them. Suppressed feelings are exactly what block your nervous system from returning to baseline.
Oh.
You spend so much time pushing down your anger and your blame because society tells you those emotions make you a bad person. But when you suppress them, they just fester.
It's like you can't just paint over rust. It will eventually eat right through the new paint.
That is the perfect analogy. By feeling the pain and acknowledging the ugliest, most vindictive parts of your judgment out loud, you are bringing the cognitive threat to the surface.
Right.
But simultaneously, by tapping those meridian points, you are sending a physical signal of safety to your amygdala.
Ah, so you're tricking your brain, kind of.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
You are telling your brain, I am experiencing this horrible memory, but my physical body is safe right now. That dual action is what finally allows those trapped emotions to process and pass through you.
Wow, so you're systematically opening the pressure valve.
Exactly.
And as you tap and speak those dark truths, you will actually feel your physical anxiety begin to drop. And that is when you enter phase 2 of the EFT process, the positive round.
Yes. Once your distress level ebbs, you switch the script. While continuing the tapping sequence, you introduce new, positive cognitive patterns.
So you changed the verbal affirmations to things like, I release the blame, or I choose to see them as flawed humans, or I am safe to let this go.
Exactly. You continue tapping through those positive statements until your body feels completely relaxed. Then you re-rate your most pressing issue on that 0 to 10 scale.
And the results are often immediate, aren't they?
Usually, yes. The physical sensation of judgment and anger drops significantly because you've literally moved the blocked psychological energy out of your nervous system.
That is incredible. But releasing that physical tension just creates a clean slate.
Right.
And a clean slate is temporary if you walk right back into the exact same environmental and mental traps.
Exactly. Somatic clearing only lasts if your mindset changes. To keep judgment from creeping back in and taking root, you have to fundamentally alter your worldview.
Which is easier said than done.
Much easier said than done.
Yeah.
And a massive piece of that is letting go of your obsessive need for control.
Because we use judgment as a tool to try and control an unpredictable world.
We do. You obsess over a career decision you made 3 years ago. You constantly judge your past self, agonizing over what you should have done differently.
Yeah, you trap yourself in an infinite loop of retroactive judgment, and you completely miss the present reality.
Exactly. But the truth is, you don't know the end of the story. Even seemingly bad choices like dropping out of college or getting fired often become the exact catalyst required for your ultimate success.
So how do we let go of that wheel?
This is where the concept of relying on higher guidance comes into play.
Okay.
Whether you view that as divine powers, the universe, or simply your own highest intuition, the goal is to stop white-knuckling the steering wheel of your life.
Right.
You have to distribute the weight. You can do this through prayer, or simply by setting a fierce daily intention to eliminate the need to control outcomes.
And when you set that psychological intention, your brain's filter starts noticing guidance everywhere. A specific sentence jumps out of a book, or a friend gives you unsolicited but perfect advice, or you just have a sudden moment of clarity while taking a shower.
Yes, but to recognize those moments, you have to clear your vision. And the biggest obstacle blocking that clear vision is how you view the people standing right in front of you.
Oh, because the trap you fall into is looking at the people in your life as, like, renovation projects.
Exactly. You judge them based on what they were 5 years ago or what you think they should become in the future to make your life easier.
So clear vision requires you to accept people exactly as they are right now without secretly plotting to change their personality or their job.
Right.
So what does this all mean for daily life? Let's ground this in a scenario.
Okay, let's do it.
Say my partner is chronically late. It drives me absolutely insane. I obsess over it, I judge them for being disrespectful of my time, and I build up this immense resentment.
I think we've all been there.
Right. But the concept of the mirror effect suggests that the worst things you see in others are often what you are denying in yourself.
Yes, the mirror effect is huge here.
So in that scenario, am I furious at my partner because I am secretly terrified of being late and losing control in traffic?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the ego's projection mechanism is fully at work there. The judgment you hurl at your partner is actually a reflection of your own internal anxiety.
Oh, wow.
Your ego cannot handle the shame or fear of your own internal chaos, so it projects that chaos onto your partner.
That makes a lot of sense. You judge the lying coworker because you fear your own capacity for deception.
Right. You judge the lazy roommate because you are terrified of your own lack of ambition. When you police others, you're usually just policing your own suppressed traits.
That is a brutal mirror to look into. So whenever I feel that intense flash of venomous judgment towards someone else, the first place I need to look is inward.
And when you realize that your judgment of them is just an echo of your own pain, compassion becomes the only logical response.
Because darkness breeds darkness.
Exactly. By empathizing with someone else's dysfunction, understanding that hurt people, you clear your obscured vision. Seeing their underlying innocence, despite their flawed behavior, is how you dismantle your own judgment.
But shifting a deeply ingrained worldview like that doesn't just happen overnight. I mean, you can't just think your way out of a lifetime of anxiety.
No, you definitely can't.
To solidify this new way of seeing the world, we need to integrate specific daily mental practices. And this really culminates in the ultimate goal of the entire detox: forgiveness.
Yes, this is where targeted meditation becomes non-negotiable. Meditation isn't just a mystical exercise. It physically alters your brainwave frequencies.
So what kind of meditation are we talking about?
The first practice is a visualization technique designed specifically to let go, to sever emotional attachments.
Okay.
You sit quietly, regulate your breathing, and vividly imagine a thin, glowing cord connecting your body to the negative feelings you harbor about a specific person.
Oh, so the visualization forces your brain to assign a physical shape to an abstract emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you imagine holding a heavy sword, you take a deep breath, and you mentally slice through that cord. You watch it fall away.
And then you intentionally rebuild your mental image of that person, right? Envisioning them anew, stripped of the baggage you were forcing them to carry.
It acts as a powerful neurological reset. Another vital tool is the mantra meditation.
I love a good mantra.
Yeah. You sit in silence, focus your attention on the space between your eyebrows to center your focus, and you repeat the mantra, Sat Nam, which translates to, truth is my name.
And you do this for like 20 minutes, right?
Yes, 20 minutes.
Because when you repeat a mantra, you're not just making sounds, you are actually engaging the vagus nerve, which runs from your brainstem down through your body.
Right.
The physical vibration of chanting signals your parasympathetic nervous system to stand down and stop producing cortisol. It is literally a biological hack.
It really is.
In fact, I saw a stat in the source material meditation improves clinical anxiety levels 60% of the time and can boost overall productivity by up to 120%.
Those numbers are incredible because you are creating the mental space required to be proactive rather than endlessly reactive.
And then after those 20 minutes, you don't just, grab your phone and start scrolling.
Definitely not. You sit with a journal and let whatever unprocessed pain or residual emotion you stirred up spill onto the paper. You document the root of the problem.
Which prepares you for the absolute pinnacle of this process: forgiveness.
Yes.
True forgiveness requires the radical act of seeing yourself in the offender. It's reading the news about someone caught stealing, and instead of instantly labeling them a monster, recognizing that under the right agonizing circumstances, like watching your own children starve, you might steal to feed your kids too.
It levels the playing field of humanity. And it applies to the mundane, everyday frustrations too.
Like what?
Letting people be wrong without needing to correct them. If someone cuts you in line at the grocery store or they're just talking really slowly, you just let them. You forgive them instantly in your own mind, completely refusing to let their dysfunction break you emotionally.
Okay, I can understand letting go when someone cuts me in line at the coffee shop. But what about severe betrayals or abuse?
This raises an important question, and it's a very common pushback.
Right, because a lot of people hear the word forgiveness and they think it means rolling over. Isn't forgiving severe trauma just letting an abuser off the hook?
The source text is very clear on this.
Yeah.
Forgiving severe trauma absolutely does not mean you have to forget what happened.
Okay, that's a crucial distinction.
Right. It does not mean you reconcile with an abuser, and it certainly does not mean accepting ongoing toxic behavior, You have every right to set impenetrable boundaries and protect yourself.
So you can still pursue accountability, you can press charges, you can fire the toxic employee.
Precisely. But a spiritual practice empowers you to fight against injustice out of a place of grounded confidence and love, not out of consuming chaotic revenge.
Oh, I see.
Demanding justice is fine, but obsessively seeking vengeance, holding on to hate, that only destroys your own biology. Judgment and resentment rot your nervous system. You forgive the offender so that you can untether your own life from their darkness, not so they can avoid the consequences of their actions.
You are simply choosing to stop drinking the poison yourself.
Exactly.
So let's look at the entire map we've drawn today. You start by unmasking judgment, recognizing it isn't a permanent trait, but just a trauma-based shield you use to hide your fear of being unworthy.
Then you physically clear that blocked emotional energy using the EFT tapping method, deliberately honoring your darkest thoughts to signal safety to your brain, making room for positive release.
Right. And then you pivot your worldview by surrendering the illusion of control, relying on higher guidance, and setting the intention to see the people around you as they are now, rather than as reflections of your own pain.
And finally, you maintain that hard-won peace through targeted daily meditations, ultimately arriving at forgiveness.
It really is a complete rewiring of your psychological operating system.
It truly is.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a direct challenge to ponder long after you take your headphones off. Think about the one person in your life you judge the absolute harshest. Maybe it's a colleague, an ex, or maybe it's yourself.
If the traits we judge most violently in others are actually the exact traits we are denying within ourselves, what is that intense, burning judgment actually trying to teach you about your own hidden fears?
What part of your own shadow are you refusing to look at? It's time to take off the invisible armor. It's heavy, it's exhausting, and as it turns out, you don't actually need it to survive anymore. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.